Hi guys, Bill the Appraiser here. Just a real quick video. Something came across my desk today and something was running through my mind, and I thought, at the end of the day, I want to go ahead and do this, even if it's a pretty short video. But, when I started this, I'd said, it's just, I've been doing this so long and I still get so many of the same questions from homeowners, and it really just kind of surprises me, shocks me a little bit. And I'm not sure if it's because the lender doesn't really give them a good idea of what to expect from the appraisal, or what the process is like, or they just, if the lender assumes that the homeowner knows how the process works, I'm not sure. But invariably, pretty frequently, I'll get a question from a homeowner when I send my initial text to set up the inspection, or the walkthrough, or the observation, or the site visit, whatever you want to call it. Appraisers, really, we try to avoid the word inspection so as not to confuse it with a home inspection, because a lot of people think it's the same thing, and of course it's not. Anyway, I'll text somebody to set up an appointment for the walkthrough, the inspection, and they write back saying, well, do you have to come in? And I'm thinking, well, yes, I do have to come in. Kind of surprised your lender didn't let you know that, or that you haven't ever had an appraisal done before and you didn't already know that. Because that opens up a whole nother can of worms, because obviously if I didn't need to come in, I probably wouldn't have even contacted them in the first place. I would have just driven by, because there are appraisals called drive-bys, and appraisers does exactly that. They go to the property, they drive by, they take a photo, and then they take all the information from public record, and they assume kind of an average condition, average quality, and go from there. And that usually, my thought has always been, that is usually for properties where the homeowners likely have a lot of equity. So for the appraisal to come to the absolute max amount of value the property is really worth, it may not be that important. And so they go with the drive-by. But so I tell people, yes, I do need to come in. So then we work that out, and so that someone can be home, depending on how they want to do that. Because some people, maybe they have a coded front door, and so they just give the appraiser the code because they trust the appraiser, assuming, well, the appraiser's from the bank, so the appraiser must be trustworthy, which is true. And then there's some people who don't like that idea, so they want to be there, and I've seen that as well, and I understand completely. By the same token, for the most part, people know the appraiser's coming. So, it kind of surprises me sometimes when I arrive and people sometimes ask the question, hey, do you take off for cleanliness? And my answer to that is, well, no, I don't think the appraiser really takes off for cleanliness per se, but it could potentially impact in some roundabout, subconscious way in the overall estimate of value, possibly. Back to the old theory, old adage, you only get one chance to make a first impression kind of thing. So I never really understand when people hit me with that. Or sometimes people will say something like, well, no, don't come on Friday. I want the weekend to cut the grass. And so then I try to explain to people, well, you don't really need to do that. I mean, it's great if you do, but not really going to impact the appraisal kind of thing. So, just one of those things that people, I think that's the point of this whole video, is a lot of people don't understand the way the whole process works. So for people who may be watching this because they have not had an appraisal done before, or haven't had one done in a long time, I think that most appraisers probably do it more or less the same way I do, which means that, I get to a property, I do a quick walk around of the property, the house, so I can get pictures of all four sides of the house. And one thing I do, not that it matters to anyone, but as I'm working on my hand sketch, then I kind of X in the windows so that as I get inside, I know what room I'm in. That will likely change a bit as I transition over to an iPad and doing the sketch from the outside. But then once I get inside, it's kind of a two-pass process. The first pass is just wandering through the home on the first floor, jotting down the rooms and the floor coverings. Then another pass through to grab the photos. Then depending on the number of floors the home has, maybe a basement, maybe a second floor, then I'll go up or down and do the same thing there. And if it's a second floor, appraisers generally measure the second floor from the inside, unless it happens to be a home where it's very obvious from the outside that the second floor is a mirror image of the first floor. Or if it's not a mirror image, it's still very easy to see exactly what the square footage is going to be like, and the appraiser sketches that, and he goes in and measures from the inside, takes photos, etc. And again, if there's a basement, then goes back down. And then usually the appraiser takes some time to chat with the homeowner to find out, hey, how long have you been here? What improvements have you made lately? Particularly big ticket items, roof, HVAC. I think it's funny whenever I mention big ticket items, a lot of people invariably mention the hot water heater, which I'm thinking, $800,000, $900,000. I mean, $800,000, $900, maybe $1,000. So not exactly big ticket as compared to HVAC or a roof or something like that. But it's always good to tell the appraiser what the latest updates are, because that could impact the value of the appraisal. So don't know if this has been helpful. Hope it has. Feel free to drop me a comment. Feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate it. And we will see you next go round on All About Appraisals. Thanks, guys.